Hey guys, Doug Walker here. Something I've noticed is that whenever I do sort of these lists of like my top 10 favorites or just whatever movies I like and everyone else dislikes and vice versa, people really seem to like that stuff, and they seem to like it more when it's not scripted. So I decided I'm gonna do a few more of these, just sort of general chat about what I personally like and don't like in terms of movies and shows, inspirations, all that good stuff. And for the most part, it's going to be off the cuff. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of editing, but so it's sort of like a semi-blog. And if you like it, keep watching them. I'm probably going to be doing a few more of them. So with that said, I am going to do, because a lot of people keep asking, I'm going to do my top favorite comedic influences. These are the people and creations that really influence my sense of humor now, pretty much. And once again, I'm putting it all together, and it was going to be a top 10, but damn it, I can't keep it a top 10, so I had to go top 15. It's my list, so I can do whatever I want. So these are the top 15 people, shouldn't say, top 15 comedic influences that had the biggest impact on me growing up. Number 15. Robin Williams. Now, I don't even think I gotta talk about why this guy is so good. It's his improv technique. It is fantastic. You see him at stand-up, you're never gonna get the same show twice. I love his energy. I love how fast he is. I love how he loves interacting with people. There's a sense that he's not afraid of anything when he goes up there to perform. But what I also love, I do have sort of this soft spot for sort of the vaudeville delivery, if it's done well. I mean, a lot of times it's done really bad, but the comedians are sort of keeping it alive and doing that delivery well. I really respect, because it is sort of going back to the roots where a lot of these performing comedians came from. So I'm, as you know, I'm not always a fan of his movie choices, but I think he can act, and he can act very well. What else can I even say about him? He's an improv genius. I mean, he just goes on an interview, and he won't shut up with the jokes. His life is just comedy, throwing comedy at you. But at the same time, he seems very, very intelligent, too. Like, when you actually get him to calm down and you talk to him for real, he seems like a really smart guy, and he seems really intelligent. So, I enjoy his jokes. They're very smart, very quick, love his energy. What else can you say about him? It's Robin Williams. Number 14. Dave Chappelle. Now, even though this guy sort of came in later in my whatever comedic development, whatever you want to call it, he really did have an influence on me, because I think it's sort of a perfect mix between really shocking humor and cartoony humor, and I really like that mix. I like sort of the mix of the really adult and really childish, and he brings those two together so well. His stand-up's good, but like everybody, I fell in love with the Chappelle Show. And there's just something about him. I think even he said, like, one of his biggest influences is Bugs Bunny. And you can see that. He really, when you see the way he says a line, or again, he sort of has that wink to the camera and that smile. Shock humor today, of course, has to be very adult and very risque, but I like it when people combine it with something from our youth, something very cartoony. And he does that so much. And you know the other thing, with the Chappelle Show, the timing is great, the editing, phenomenal. I don't know if you ever really concentrate on the editing in that show, but it's some of the best comedic editing you'll ever see. They know just when to cut, just when to go to the next shot, just when to hold on a shot long enough. I mean, I don't know if he had any say in that, he probably did, but that's part of what made that show just so good, is the editing was just so crisp and so fast, and knew exactly when to stop, knew exactly how long to go. So, and I also like the idea of combining the stand-up with comedic sketches. I thought it was a very clever way of doing things. I think a lot of comedians wish they could do that, actually. So, again, very straightforward. People love him. Dave Chappelle. Number 13. Animaniacs. Okay, yeah, you've heard me go on and on about this show. I mean, it's practically pointless to talk about it, but let's talk about it a little bit. Premise is great. The timing, wonderful. I love the fact that they're really trying to recreate the Looney Tunes, but sort of mix it with the variety show, and that's something that I think is a big deal. Variety shows used to be really, really big. I mean, Carol Burnett, who is wonderful, actually would be on this list if maybe she came in my life a little younger, but you know, that's a wonderful show. Laugh-In and a lot of these other shows. The only one we really have still, and even then it's sort of loose, is SNL, which still has sketches and songs, you know, but it's, well, there's 2 song performances, and it's pretty much just these sketches. They all have a certain amount of time. There's not much variety to it. Animaniacs seemed to really bring back the variety show, for kids at least. And it was really nice. A lot of things didn't have to be an exact amount long. It could, of course, sort of segue into whatever. And what's great about Animaniacs is also what's great about something like Family Guy is that they really take advantage of the fact that it's animation. It's not like, hey, this is just a live-action sketch show but with cartoons. I mean, they take advantage of the fact that you can do anything with animation, and even the setups. I mean, 2 little mice that want to take over the world. I mean, you can't do that in live action, or at least it wouldn't be as funny. So, you know, or the old cartoon character that knows all the tricks, you know, with Slappy and all that stuff. I mean, these are just great. These characters are great. They practically seem alive. And the timing they have is wonderful. The jokes are great. Great variety of jokes. Both very childish, just straight to the kids, and then very adult, straight to the adults. Look at the top 11 naughtiest Animaniac moments, you know what I'm talking about. And, yeah, huge influence on me growing up, definitely. Never missed an episode growing up. I mean, just really, really took a lot from their humor. So, like I say, as if I haven't said enough, Animaniacs. Number 12. Bill Murray. I can't explain what it is. There's just something about the way he performs, the way he talks, the way he acts. He is so comfortable with what he is, and he also enjoys it so much. It just happens to be a jerk. You know, and most jerks, when you see them, and I love these jerks, you know, are uncomfortable. They're very unsatisfying. They're, you know, it shows all the weaknesses. Bill Murray is just so cool with how smug he is, and just how funny he is. And now I'm talking about sort of the character he played. I don't know if the actual person is like that. I hear he is. I don't know. But yeah, the people he plays in these movies are just so much fun. And I think there's something where even though he's a jerk, he's so relaxed and he's so comfortable with it that you become comfortable with it as well. So I haven't seen him do much stand-up or anything, and even on SNL, you're always sort of aware you're watching Bill Murray, which is both an advantage and a disadvantage. If you like Bill Murray, you'll really, really like watching his stuff. But if it's something like Jeff Goldblum, where you see it once and you're done, oh, you're just going to see that over and over and over, it's not going to work. So, I mean, luckily, I really enjoy Bill Murray. I like seeing him in these movies. You know, Ghostbusters, Lost in Translation, you know, these are great movies. And yeah, I like I said, just a comfortableness with how smug he is. And I think when you're really confident in who you are and the jokes you're saying, it brings other people in. I think he's very, very good at that. So, again, sort of a no-brainer. A lot of people enjoy him. I enjoy him too. Number 11. Rowan Atkinson. Now, here's the thing about Rowan Atkinson. I like him more for some of his stuff that's not as popular. I like him more for Blackadder. Some of you have seen that, you know, the Hugh Laurie, you know, Dr. House, he came from there. I actually cannot watch House because of the show Blackadder. I keep thinking Hugh Laurie's gonna, you know, dress up in drag or something like that, because that's what he did in one episode. So, but anyway, Rowan Atkinson, I like him more as the jerk. The Mr. Bean stuff, he's sort of a jerk too, but it's sort of a naive, innocent jerk. It's a little child, basically. And that's very funny too. I like his Mr. Bean stuff, but the stuff where I think he shines the best is when he's this, you know, just miserable, intelligent, but just miserable human being, never gets what he wants, and makes everybody suffer because of it. and just so pompous, but also, again, very intelligent, and he can make you sympathize with the fact that he deserves more, but for some reason he's not getting it, and it's probably attitude. It's probably because of his attitude that things don't fall in his lap, and he's always working for the idiot. And that's just such a great character. On top of that, Mr. Bean, the physical performance. And that's what I like about Rowan Atkinson. You have, you know, if you want character, you go to Blackadder. You know, you go, that's the great character development. If you want the physical comedy, you go to Mr. Bean. And I think that's great that you have those two extremes, you know, back to back, and they really work out well. So I really enjoy Rowan Atkinson's work, even in something like Rat Race, which was almost sort of a repeat of Mr. Bean. There's such this joy and this innocence. I love the fact he can go extreme miserable with Mr. Bean and extreme positive and, you know, naive and wide-eyed and stuff, and still make it funny. It's very hard to make positive characters funny, even though you can sort of argue there's a lot of negativity to him because he is like a little kid. But what people usually like about Mr. Bean is when he's very positive. Like when he was playing with the nativity scene in the Christmas episode with the dinosaur and stuff like that. He's not doing this to be mean, he's having fun. You know, he doesn't know any better, and I think people really relate to how excited he is and how he sees them like action figures. So I really like Rowan Atkinson because he can get both the really negative and the really positive and make them both very, very funny. So that's a real good talent there. Number 10. Daily Show and The Colbert Report. I should just call it Comedy Central News. But both these guys, they, in a sense, they sort of do the same thing, so I put them both in the same category, and both have had a really large influence. Particularly on the Nostalgia Critic. I think with Jon Stewart, I'm really impressed with how Jon Stewart has sort of become like this voice of reason, even though he does this comedy show. And it's perfect, because with comedy, you can, if you start making really strong points, people say, yeah, he's making a really strong point. If you make a point that doesn't work, you just say, oh, well, I'm a dummy. Comedy. I'm supposed to be a dumb comedian. So it's actually sort of foolproof if you do it right. And Jon Stewart has figured that out. Which is really great. Now, some people complain that, you know, he makes too many strong, you know, movements for, you know, his side, which he is very left, people, come on. I mean, for the people who's like, no, he's down the middle. No, he's very left. He will make jokes at the left, which is great. I saw that interview with Obama at the end of last year, and that was a great interview. But yeah, they're pretty left, you know, but it doesn't matter. They will still make fun of both sides, which I do really respect. But I think there's something, again, he's one of the few people that can look at the camera and laugh and sort of, you know, do the shrug thing, and it works for some reason. There's something about, he obviously shows how intelligent he is, and he obviously shows even though I think he is very left, he wants to give both sides sort of a chance. You know, he acknowledges that there's problems with both sides. So, like I said, he gets a lot of credibility. And even when a joke fails, he has fun with it, and he can have other people joke with it. You know, in a sense, he never takes it too seriously. He's always ready to fall back into a stupid joke, which I really like. Colbert Report. I like him for similar reasons, but the main one is that he's created this character, and it's incredible how much he sticks to his character, both written and improvised. It's phenomenal. I mean, I've never seen anyone stick to a character so consistently for so long and so well. And the way he uses the backwards logic to always bring it back to he's always right is so well done. And you can tell it's not just the writers, though of course they have a very, they do a lot of it. When he's talking with somebody, you know, in an interview and stuff, I mean, just how quick he is to have these responses and always work it back to he's correct is so brilliant. And I can't think of any other comedian I've seen that has been that good at it. Maybe if another comedian decided to take that on, like if Robin Williams may decide to do that, possibly he could do it, but Colbert is just born to do this, and he does it so wonderfully, and it's very, very well done. He does it very, very well. So both these shows have, like, some of the best writers. I can't believe how consistently good these writers are, but they both have really good main talents. If I had to choose which one is more talented, probably Colbert, because like I said, he is sticking to this character no matter what. Stewart is great, but again, he does the, you know, sort of the fight for the people, you know, the voice of reason and stuff like that, which is wonderful, fantastic, but it does take away a little bit from the comedy. So, but again, you get some very good points out of it. So they're both equally wonderful, but I think Colbert is maybe a little bit more talent. But both are fantastic, and both do their job incredibly well. If you watch Nostalgia Critic, you can tell I take a lot from both of them. So, yeah, really good stuff. Number 9. The Zucker Brothers and Jim Abrams. Now, everybody always says, Zucker Brothers, the Zucker Brother movies. They forget Jim Abrams was a big part of that, too. And if you want proof of that, when they split, when the Zucker Brothers split and Jim Abrams went and did his stuff, too, you know, none of them quite hit that level of, you know, hilarity. It may be Rat Race, but, you know, none of them hit the hilarity of, like, you know, Airplane or Hot Shots or anything. The one that came close to keeping that style, though, was Jim Abrams with Mafia, which is sort of underrated. It's not that bad a film. It doesn't totally work, but it's not that bad. It's got some really memorable jokes in there, and that's the closest to sort of the formula they created with, you know, the Hot Shot movies and Naked Gun. So I put those three together, and something about, again, it's sort of that cartoony style mixed with naughty humor. I'm a big fan of visual jokes, like, even the ones that I know are stupid. For example, in Mafia, there's a scene where this guy, this gangster, he's trying to shoot this kid, he's in the forest, and he shoots the gun, it hits the tree, and the tree goes, and falls over dead. Laugh my ass off. I don't know why. Maybe because there's a silly part of me that wants to see that. You know, I think maybe because as children we were raised on cartoons, we have a more active imagination with visual jokes. So when we do see a visual joke, in the back of our head we're thinking, wouldn't it be funny if this happened? They sort of do that. They go with the jokes that you sort of want to see happen. When you're watching a movie, and, you know, a serious movie, and sometimes you get the giggles, there's some visuals you want to see, and I think they tap into that. And I think they tap into it really, really well. So, and I like the fact that parodies now, and this is including, you know, my work, when we do satires, we sort of directly point at what we're making fun of. For example, like in Scary Movie 3, Charlie Sheen says, you know, when they're satirizing signs, he says, what, they can master space travel, but they can't get through a door? You know, that's directly attacking signs. In something like in Hot Shots, it's a little bit more subtle. Like, this can exist on its own. You don't have to have seen Top Gun or Rambo or anything like that. You know, the jokes they make, it's satirizing, but it's also self-contained. And I do have a respect for that. I think that's usually the much better way to go, and the movies usually last a lot better, because people forget the details of some of these other films. But even as a kid, I didn't see Top Gun, you know, as a kid, but I could see Hot Shots and laugh and still find it funny. So, big respect for those guys. If you haven't seen the Kentucky Fried Movie, that's like probably their first film. It's just a bunch of sketches, but very funny stuff. A little perverted, but very, very funny stuff. And these three were just so great. I love to see them get back together again and do some sort of movie project. Maybe they can do like Lord of the Rings or something. Why? How come nobody's... You know, the satire movies are so dead right now. I mean, they can really bring it back and they can really be funny, because there's some good movie franchises that can be satirized. You know, the Star Wars prequels, the Harry Potters, the Lord of the Rings. I mean, franchises are huge right now. Why aren't they making good satires? You know, instead of just making the satire before they see the film. You know, just spend some time on it. Make it funny. They can still work. Everyone's saying it's dead. No, you can make it work. You know, just have fun with it. So, yeah, that's all I gotta say about that. Number 8. South Park. Now, these guys are a huge influence because they're still going. They're still going, and they're doing it with very little. Really think about it. The animation is still awful. It's awful animation. But it still has good timing. What they're saying is funny. And they're not taking any prisoners. They it seems like they really don't care what anybody thinks. They're just going to say their opinion, even if it's really unpopular. A lot of times it is popular, but there's a good chunk of the time where it is not popular, and they just go that route. And it's great because it doesn't seem like they have to throw much money into it, so whatever. If an episode doesn't do well or loses money or something, they still got a ton. You know, it's such a big hit. And I really admire that direct honesty, that direct, here's our opinion, here's what we see. Do you see this too? Because this is what we're seeing. If not, we're going to have fun with it anyway. And they do it so well. I really like the fact these... the character I really love the most in that show, I'm sure everybody loves him the most, is Cartman. Because he is such a horrible, despicable creation. And the fact that he's a kid just makes it even more funny, because it just makes him even more sort of, you don't want to pay attention to him, like, you know, there's no need to pay attention to him, he's all this just this emotional little complainer. But the fact that when he does get power, when he does become powerful, that's, I love stuff like that. I love it when the person who is not important, doesn't say anything of importance, is just a total jerk, gets all this power. And there's a lot of times where that's happened. So, really love that character. And I love the fact you know, and some of it does become dated, but what's interesting about South Park is that even when they satirize something that becomes dated, their satires are so funny that people actually remember the event because of the satire. And that's real talent. That's really, really good. And I see myself... I don't usually think of South Park that much. Like, I don't usually quote a reference in my head or anything like that, but I do find myself realizing, yeah, it's in there. It's really embedded in there, and I don't think about it that much. In fact, usually I'm like, oh, South Park, what? I don't want to watch that lowbrow. But whenever I watch it, hilarious. Always something funny in there. So it's very funny how that works out, how there's this... you know, incredibly immature comedy that's going on, but there's also this great social satire that they're just directly aiming at. And a good chunk of the time I do agree with them, and even if I don't, it's still good food for thought. It's still fun to listen to. So really like these guys. I like them because they keep going, they're still fresh, they're still funny, and they do it with very, very little. Which, you know, for us is a big influence, you know. I mean, we don't throw, you know, a shitload of money into our productions. You know, we keep it very simple. We're hoping that's the content that makes it, you know, still last. So but like I said, I really admire the fact that they're still around and they're still doing very, very well. And it's still very, very fresh, and you still can't predict what they're going to do or what they're going to say. And that's really great. We can only hope to be that awesome. Number 7. Mel Brooks. Again, sort of the semi-vaudeville thing going on. I really enjoy how sometimes it becomes a little too vaudeville, I'm not gonna lie. You know, some of these jokes are like, really? You did that joke? But again, sort of part of the fun. You know, he will say, yeah, we'll do this. You know, I don't care if it's lame. I'm gonna do it because I like it. And I think you do sense that passion in a lot of his movies. I think the only point where I started to kind of lose it, I liked Robin Hood Men in Tights enough, but then as soon as the Dracula one came around, I'm like, this is bad, I don't like that. But before that, oh no, even after that, the Broadway producers here was very, very good. Didn't like the movie too much. I'm not doing an old versus new of that. I mean, in terms of the new movie and the old movie, because the new movie obviously won't win. The old movie is fantastic, and Gene Wilder and Zero Mosetta, how can you